what you were saying.
Hi. Does this work? Yeah. Hi. Thank you all for coming. For those of you that might not know me, my name is Nicole. I'm Lyall's daughter. This is Greg. He's also here. Thank you all so much for coming. I'm sorry it's a little crowded. We didn't know so many of his friends were still alive. And we definitely didn't know so many of you still liked him. But thank you for being here. I'm glad you're here. We have a memory book over by the tuxedo if anyone wants to sign it today. I know you guys might be feeling inclined to write something like touching or heartfelt, but we all know he was an asshole, so feel free to put some true stories in there too.
Great way to start.
And there are also a box of Frantic Follies records and a box of Frantic Follies bumper stickers that we have been trying to get rid of for years. So if you have any extras you want to take one, please take one. Yeah, we're gonna have a few speakers today. We really want today to be a celebration for Dad. So yeah, I think Greg is gonna start us off.
So we thought it'd be nice to start off by reading a passage from Lyall's personal Bible.
Okay, that was it. I guess we'll just go to our first speaker. I'd like to welcome my Uncle Laurie up. Also, thank you, Patty, for playing the bagpipes. That was lovely. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Nicole's Uncle Laurie. I want to start by saying that when you have a brother that's 10 years older than you, you learn many wondrous things. Hang on. Oop. Oh, wait. Nothing. What do you do? Oh, yeah. No. Yeah, all right. I can see. That was Lyall. He says, everyone who's going to speak today is a liar. So as I was saying, having a brother 10 years older than you teaches you wondrous things. Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a spider and sat down beside her, and she crushed it with her spoon. I went into kindergarten thinking that was the original version. And the teacher was very shocked. I corrected her. That's really all I have to say about him. Pretty much encapsulates him, I think. I thought what I was going to say, I thought maybe I'd be the guy that talks about Lyall pre-Yukon. The Lyall maybe a lot of you didn't know. And when I thought about it, I realized I have no goddamn idea, because he was 10 years older than me. My brother Jim was 12 years older, my sister was 15 years older. So they were all grown up out of the house by the time I was any good at forming memories. Essentially, I had 5 parents, 2 of whom were problematic. Now, as a result of the age difference, I remember that Lyall was the last to go. And I remember leather jackets, football pads, putty-colored 61 Beetle with a sunroof. He used to let me stand on the seat and stick my head and shoulders out as he drove on the highway, which sounds irresponsible, but it wasn't really, because the car didn't have seat belts anyway. I remember our large open kitchen, where it could be turned into an impromptu stage, where Jim's singing group, the Wayside Singers, with Lyall sitting in, was singing "If I Had a Hammer." And I learned from him at an early age that standing up in front of people doing things was not weird. It was the most natural thing in the world. I also learned that if he had a hammer, he would hammer in the morning. And one thing that was always present, talking about Lyall, was Jim. They were a package deal. 2 years apart, but tight as a drum. Perfectly complementary personalities. Jim was fiery, creative. Lyall was go with the flow, and seemingly imperturbable. If Jim wanted you to do something for him, say, move a player piano up 2 flights of stairs, he would present it to you as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. That no one with any kind of thinking mind could possibly disagree that this was the course of events that needed to occur now. Lyall would just say, I can't believe how few pianos I have upstairs, and 8 people would suddenly show up and do it for me. So when the menswear store where Jim worked transferred into Whitehorse, Lyall wasn't far behind. He joined the drama club. It was performing a once-a-week show called The Frantic Follies. And my memory is that Jim played the drums and that Lyall played the accordion. So if you missed that show, it's okay. The following year, the drama club folded. They stole the name and started a business that would run for 46 years and change everybody's life here and change the city. That first professional performance made enough money to buy the cast a round of draft. Doug Clark was there that night. Put your hand up. Wendy Winston was there that night. Am I missing anybody?
Eva Holland.
Eva Holland was there that night. So Lyall was a proponent of what he called the Paul McCartney school of writing and performing. Make sure the song ends before the audience wants it to. He's a very doting uncle, and afterwards an even more doting father, with humor always his default mode. But nothing made him laugh more than seeing me hurt myself in a non-lethal way. It was reciprocal. Seeing him hit his finger with a hammer or stand up into a cupboard was unbelievably hysterically funny to me. And it was the same with all our siblings. It wasn't quite as funny with Marg. It was a little bit scary with Jim. But if Lyall hurt himself, it was just pure joy. And yeah, poor Marg. I don't know. We had one normal sibling for some reason. So humor was always lurking beneath the surface with him. That was his performance style too. The audience could sense there was humor bubbling under the surface all the time, and when it came out, they were putty in his hands. And he always ended the song before they wanted it to. I absolutely idolized. God damn it. Both of my brothers, they were gods to me. So when I was about 12 or 13 years old, Lyall and I were having a conversation about somebody or something that had died. And I asked him, so, what do you think about all that stuff? And he said, what stuff? I said, you know, what happens after you die and stuff. You know, that stuff that you ask the deep wisdom of a 23-year-old. Now he paused as if he wasn't sure he should answer me. And then he said, and this is verbatim, it was 54 years ago, but I remember it exactly. He said, I believe that people are born, and then they live for a while, and then they die. That's it. Same likey dogs and mosquitoes. I gave it great weight because, I mean, he was 23. He had to be right. And as we know, he stuck hard and fast to that attitude of, let's call it a crusty radical atheism. But there was always a soft and squishy center under that crustiness. Fast forward 50 or so years from the dogs and mosquitoes bit, and we were talking on the phone, me in Toronto and he in Birch Lodge downtown here. It was an ordinary call where he was probably complaining that his feet hurt for the millionth time. And out of the blue, he told me a story about riding his electric scooter back from the mall. He said that the sidewalks are a gosh darn disgrace downtown, except he didn't use the word gosh darn if you received my meaning. And he said, and then I stopped at this big crack in the sidewalk, and there were flowers growing in it, and just gushing out of this ugly crack, and they were so beautiful. I was just stunned, and then I looked and looked around, and I realized absolutely everything is beautiful. Everything. And I was like, yeah. Is this Lyall? Anyway, that's enough of that. Let's get difference to this pragmatism and look at some numbers. I do not stand by these numbers. They're based simply on what sounds interesting to me. In the heyday of the 80s, we were putting through over 800 people a night through 2 shows at the height of the season, maybe 150 shows total. So let's be conservative and say an average of 250 people per performance, 100 performances per year, that's 30,000 people per year times 46 years. That's 1.38 million people. 90-minute show averaging a little over a laugh a minute, 100 laughs per show equals 138 million person laughs. 3 seconds per laugh, that's 414 million seconds, or 13 years. That was his number when he played football, by the way, 13 years. Throw a boring fact in there for you. That's a person laughing constantly, all day and all night, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, for 13 years. I hope we can all agree that person is going to die. And of course, those are just his professional laughs. We could probably push it up to 18 years if we included the people he made laugh for free, which was us. And laughter's, of course, ephemeral, but I like to think that those 100 and some million laughs still ring out in their little corner of space and time. And people, on the other hand, are easier to track. We're all here today because there was a Frantic Follies. Some of you live in Whitehorse to this day because of the Frantic Follies. I met Jean because of the Frantic Follies. Jessica and Lachlan were born because of the Frantic Follies. Many of you exist because there was a Frantic Follies, and your children and theirs. Nicole and Greg, brought to you courtesy of the Frantic Follies. Alex, you probably would have slipped through the crack. Anyway. But the Frantic Follies changed the world. They made it better in ways we'll never know the depths of. All because someone, probably Jim, said, we should steal the name and keep the money for ourselves. And someone else, probably Lyall, said, okay. But Lyall didn't, he did have a God, he just didn't realize it. The God was laughter. And he ended the song before we wanted it.
Like this.
Well, I thought of one more thing.
I don't know how to follow that. I mean, not come close to that. I've got a number of things from people who couldn't make it also to read, so I shouldn't be here more than 45 minutes. I moved to Whitehorse in 1969 and was introduced to Jim, Debbie, and Lyall Murdoch in the spring of 1970 by my girlfriend Lorraine, who became my wife. She was dancing in the first season of the Frantic Follies at the old Whitehorse Inn. She no longer survived. Jim was a creative genius. Debbie was Lipstick Lou, the choreographer, the seamstress, who created the gorgeous costumes, and the Can-Can Girl Wrangler. Lyall was a quiet one at first. He carried admin, books, and organization on his shoulders. We became the best of friends through the 70s. Oh man, 10 years, the best of my life. Well, it's pretty good now, but did 2 6-week tours across Canada by bus, playing various strange venues such as the Millhaven Penitentiary in Kingston, Ontario, and the West Wing of the Parliament buildings. And 2 military tours on C-31 Hercules they pick us up in town, one in the winter, one in the summer, and we'd fly to Nunavik and do a show, fly to Yellowknife, do a show, go through Resolute, and end up at Alert, pretty close to the North Pole. Had a good time up there. And 3 seasons of doing the show together. We figured we did cabin fever, no we didn't. We figured we did Sam McGee about 600 times. And Lyall's favorite thing was when I would bend down to pick him up and put him in the furnace, he would fart. I would try to hold my breath, pick him up and put him into the furnace, but I would make sure I slipped and banged his head through the one night on the 75 tour, I think the last night of the show, we were doing Fort Saskatchewan. Having trouble moving my vowels. Fort Saskatchewan, prison north of Edmonton. And I had to make a quick change. I had to run off stage and change into the costume for the magician's lovely assistant. I had to put on a bright red turban, pair of baggy pants, and a pair of 16-inch high green shiny boots. That they were carved out by the world famous shoe carver, Honeybucket Peterson. Yeah, there was 16 inches of wood with a pair of shoes nailed on top, spray painted with bright green stars. And Lyall had been so thoughtful that night that he filled both the shoes with Lee Page's white glue. So I made a very sloppy entrance on it. Lyall had this sweet little cabin out on Lower Kathleen Lake, a couple hours from here. We used to go out there quite a bit. It was on next to Sally Kay and Karsten's cabin, just down the lake. We used to go out there in his old Datsun station wagon. And in those days, the Ford, I think it was a Datsun green one. And the heaters were with the dam. So you'd be driving out at 25 below, we'd be driving out in the dark, you'd have a space this big in front of you, you could see through, and all the rest would be ice. So one of us would be driving, the other one would be scraping the windshield, crazy. It was like roaring through space in a well-shaken snow globe. So when we get to the cabin, it's about a 2-hour drive out there. We get out of the car, we drive on the side of the road, we drive up a little hill so we can turn around and get some momentum to get onto the road. When we came back out, we put our packs on, hiked a mile into the cabin, got the stove cranked up, sat down, and after a doobie, we started watching the thermometers. It sank to minus 37 degrees. So nevertheless, we didn't leave the cabin much that weekend except to go out for basic human conveniences. We over the next 3 days we drank a fair amount of drambuie and beer, smoked a good deal of weed, and played 160 games of crib. And we listened to the ice snapple, crack, and pop, and go off like small shotguns outside as the river froze over, the lake froze over and closed in. It warmed up to about minus 30 by the time we hiked out, but the poor car, that's was frozen. So we didn't, I guess we hadn't thought of that, so we scraped all the snow away underneath the car, and we built a little fire. And in about an hour the car thawed out and we were able to get out and head home. We sort of improved on that. Next time we went out, we got a 4-foot length of metal pipe with a 90-degree elbow on the end and a tiger torch and a can of propane. We stuck the pipe under the car and cranked the tiger torch up, blew the flame down, and it melted a lot faster and it was a lot safer. One of Lyall's major characteristics, I feel, is that he was a rock on stage. You could not distract him. It was great for the guys in the cast because it worked out very well for us because many can girls over the years got involved in bets if they could see if they could make Lyall laugh or break up on stage, and so they exposed themselves in very creative ways. Standing on the other side of the stage behind Herbie on the piano, and we got some good glimpses. One year we brought Chet Miller up from Vancouver. He did the show in '74, and we smuggled him out to our place and hid him outside of town. And then it was the end of the show, the last night of the show, where everybody could play tricks with each other. And we snuck Chet into the theater, snuck him backstage, and they came to the cabin scene where Lyall and Valdine, the lights would come up. They'd be sitting there, Lyall would be doing his empty, hungry. And the lights came up and Lyall turned to the left and Chet was sitting instead of Valdine. And there was not a giggle, not a smirk. He had no clue. He was unfazable, absolutely. We played at the Fuego Folk Festival in '78 with Valdine and his band Southern Exposure, all Follies cast members. And the next year in '79 with band leader Herbie Bowman and his band Herbert and the Perverts, swinging Dixieland. He was called a grumpy old man by the time he was 30. He had pretty hair and a beard, but beneath that grumpy character was facade was just one of the warmest guys you'd ever know. We'd sit around all day and tell stories about him just from the first 10 years, and we still wouldn't finish them. So he was unforgettable. R.I.P. partner. I got one from Chet Miller now. He sent up, he couldn't make it up. Chet says, Lyall and I were the best of friends from the moment we met back in the mid-teens. We spent a lot of time together living a good distance apart. Lyall's, despite living a good distance apart, Lyall's house was right across the road from the school. So we not only spent the school day together, but also lunchtime and after school time. Our house had a basement. We played ping pong and smoke. We pretended his mom didn't know, but she knew everything. Lyall's parents owned a small farm a few miles from the main house. They kept horses and perhaps a cow or two. Lyall's dad would tend to the daily chores, but on weekends he was content to let Lyall and Jim and their friends gather for parties. Weekends at the Murdoch farm involved some beer drinking and some music. There was no shortage of musical friends who came around. Jim was a major influence in Lyall's life, and in my life, and I'm sure many of you folks gathered here today. I thought there was something else after that. After high school, Jim got a good job in Whitehorse, and he convinced us to follow him, which we eventually did. Lyall and I loaded up my '55 Chevy that was nearing its best before date, and made it to Whitehorse in 36 hours from Surrey. It was mostly non-stop, except for having to stop every 30 miles to put more oil in the car for the last 300 kilometers. Whitehorse was the seemingly most wonderful town. Jim was already a hotshot around town, so our indoctrination was quite seamless. I worked with Jim in the men's department of Northern Commercial Company, and Lyall managed the produce department in a neighboring store, Taylor and Drury. We decided one day that we needed a dog, so we got a puppy, which we named Fang. Over one winter, Lyall and I hand-stitched together a custom-made parka for Fang, complete with hood, tail cover, and pee-pee hole. It took almost longer to get it into that as it did to sew it together. Lyall went back to the coast for a while. I think some university couldn't do without him, and he took the pets with him. Or should I say his mom did. The minor bird picked up his last few words in Surrey. Lyall's mom would call him in the morning to get breakfast, and down with that bird didn't terrifically go, Lyall, Lyall, Lyall! I eventually left Whitehorse for greener fields, but made a number of trips back to see Lyall and the many good friends we shared in this town. I didn't see Lyall much for the last several years, but we caught up regularly on or near his birthday. Our birthdays were close together. He once wrote a rather derogatory limerick about me, of which I only remember the first and last line. There once was a man with a sizable beak, and I'm older than him by 5 weeks. Rest in peace, my friend. He was on CBC in the early 70s. Chocolate Shed was his. This one, Greg Sumner. Greg was an incredible banjo player, piano player. Played anything with strings. Lyall and I spent many, many hours in the early 70s. Greg did up a little chart of books, box charts of 1920s tunes, and Greg would play the cornet, Lyall would be on the banjo, and I'd be on the guitar. Look at these little tiny charts. Just had a lot of fun. Greg says, first and most important, my heartfelt condolences to Lyall's family for their loss. I met him in 1971 or 72 in a club in Gastown called the Banjo Palace, where he and Jim and Debbie were listening to my four-piece band, which included a later addition to the Follies, famous Herbie Bowman on the piano. Little did I know that it would lead to 10 fun years in the Yukon. All I'll miss is Lyall's ready wit and his ability to turn ordinary conversations into laughs. On stage or off, humor figured prominently. That in mind, Greg contributed a song, which will be on the video played later, from 1932 that Lyall really loved, called Ain't It Grand to Be Bloomin' Well Dead. Val Dean was another in the 70s, guitar player, fiddle player that Lyall and I spent a lot of time playing with. Very short-spoken man from Canvas. He said, the people loved Lyall every night. His magic seemed effortless, one of a kind. It was never the same without him. I always felt like I worked with him, not for him. I'd do it all again, wish I could. Dean of the Follies, you can quote me. And I'll be quick, there's a couple more. Doug Cameron. Doug was a leading man for a lot of the 60s, worked in the Dawson Show also. He said, my experience with the producers of the Frantic Follies and Gaslight Follies is one I will always treasure. The memories I have and the friendship I made had great influence on who I am today. Jim, Lyall, and Debbie welcomed me with open arms. The trust they had for me was overwhelming. Lyall was often my rock. I always felt I could confide in him. He had a uniquely odd sense of humor and always seemed to have something up his sleeve. In the final show of one season, we were told that we could play tricks on our fellow cast members. However, for the sake of the audience, it had to stay professional. At the end of the first half, Jim called the cast out on stage for a snake oil pitch of the Eau de Riviere, Yukon. I think there's a bottle over there. He would list the wonderful healing properties of the elixir, generally ending with it being a solution to throbbing, gurgling, and rumbling sensations in the bowel, and an awful feeling as if something dreadful was about to happen. And he would conclude with asking the audience to guess the answer to a convoluted, nonsensical math question to determine the cost of the product. I asked the whole cast to join me in jumping up and down and explaining, I know. Unbeknownst to me, Lyall went around behind me and told everybody not to do anything. Consequently, I jumped up saying, I know. And in the dead silence that followed, Jim looked over with a smirk and said, what's the answer, Doug? I had to say, I don't know, and slink back to the dressing room. There are many other tales to be told, but this one is saved for polite company as my tribute to someone I truly admire. And I went for Marie Gogo, who was in the 80s. Please accept condolences from Jason and I on the loss of your beloved father, brother, friend, and Uncle Lyall. What a character he was. And I mean that in the nicest way. His obsession with the English language was funny and fun. I may not have learned to speak better, but I certainly did learn not to end a sentence with a preposition. We all love to watch Life on the Wings because his delivery is so unique and wonderful. And he came up with the funniest ad-libs. I remember once in the cabin scene, Shane ripping up the newspaper and Lyall yelling at it, "You're ripping it!" So that was a phrase that went around for many years afterwards. When I was chosen as the leading lady in the 1988 show, I was absolutely thrilled, and I told Lyall that I was sure I would show up for rehearsals and be told that I was going to be dancing in the can-can line. Sure enough, when I arrived at the first rehearsal, he welcomed me and told me to go to the dressing room, get a practice skirt, and start learning the can-cans. He never missed a chance for a prank. He taught me to play the musical song, which he did with great patience. I used that skill to great advantage over the years. I treasure my years with the Follies and have always been extremely proud to have been a cast member and made so many lifelong friends. I'm so grateful for Lyall and the Frantic Follies cast and staff for so much. Dear Uncle Lyall, we love you and we'll miss you forever. My sister once told me if you're doing a speech and you can't quite keep it together, you should smile. Okay, one more. This is from Tom Grauweiler. Tom was 16 when he went on tour with us in 1977. I can't imagine my parents allowing me to go on a bus with a load of crazies across Canada. We called him YTG, because he was young Tom Grauweiler. I was 16 when I met Lyall, 64 hearing I had to I meet him here today, in words if not in body. Fortunately, he left us with many memories. All the families he made, his own, the Follies family, making an audience feel like a family, tuned to each other. Lyall stringing us along with his easy humor and his affable personality. Lucky, all of us. Lyall and Jim lose that term, lucky. Their eyes rolling slightly, their smiles infectious and laughs amazing, when perhaps I told a story of mine or some of their helpless fellows' adventure or misadventure. We all had Lyall in common. What a fortunate thread. Thanks to you and your families, your own and the one the Follies helped you create, for all the great and grand memories, moments you created and shared with one and many. May the light always be shining on you. The curtain always opening for you, and may your applause always waiting for you, wherever you are, Tom. Smile, Scott. Good.
So now it's time for, my sister asked me to put together a roast for tonight. So
I said toast. I said do a toast. A toast.
I got some stuff. Oh, jeez. This shouldn't see the light of day. For our next speaker, I would like to welcome up to sing the charming and witty, the sparkling and pretty, the lovely Miss Fawn Fritzen.
Check, check. Oh, there we are. All right. I remember many a day having struggles with the lav microphones on the Frantic Follies stage. I'm so honored to be here with you today, gathered together to remember and celebrate Lyall Murdoch. As you can see, I'm not really fully in Follies mode, because I thought I would share with you the transformation of everyday fun into leading lady of the Frantic Follies. And while I do that, give you a little bit of my impressions of Lyall, just a couple of stories. I did not practice this. There we go. All right, so I wanted to start by telling you about my very first impressions of Lyall. I had been hired by Grant Simpson, who is here today, to be one of the leading ladies at the Frantic Follies. My first season was in 2012, and so I did all of my correspondence with Grant, and I hadn't yet met Lyall. So my very first time meeting Lyall was at a music party, I believe at Mary Beatty's house, and somebody pointed him out to me. I didn't even know what he looked like. So I saw him and I went over. He was actually just about to leave the party, and he didn't acknowledge me. He didn't say hello, but he kind of, with a twinkle in his eye, bid goodbye to his children on his way out the door. And that was my first introduction to him, because what he said was, "You're all right and I don't hate you." I don't know if that's how he said goodbye to you every day. Yes, all right. I'm so glad I was able to witness that. The crowning jewels, make the leading lady. And we must not forget the gloves. I believe I saw Linda here earlier. There she is. She can give me heck later. The other story I want to share with you is one that I just learned yesterday. I met up with Claire Ness last night at the McBride Museum. I know many of you also were there last night. And she loaned me a piece of my costume, which I will show you in a moment. But she tells me about this character that she developed. So she was a leading lady the same years that I was at the Frantic Follies, 2012, 13, 14. And she decided to develop her character. As many of you know, Claire went and studied clowning. She's a clown by nature. And she developed a character that she was inspired by Madeline Kahn in Blazing Saddles. Is that familiar to anyone? Yeah. I was not familiar with that, so I had to go and watch it. And Madeline Kahn was inspired by Marlene Dietrich. So she had a bit of a faux German accent and turned her R's into W's. So this is the character that Claire put together, inspired by Madeline Kahn. And she did her first set with this character. And right after she got off the stage, she said she could hear the footsteps of Lyall coming across the stage into the dressing room. And he said, "Stop that with that Elmer Fudd crap." So she changed her character midway through the show. Lyall had a wonderful sense of humor, but he also was a perfectionist when it came to the Frantic Follies, to the shows. I saw the Can-Can girls practicing the magic show, the magic trick, over and over and over again, all throughout the entire season, just to be able to get it up to Lyall's standards. This is the crowning glory of the leading lady. Some feathers. And even though the Frantic Follies ran for so long and involved probably hundreds of people who became part of the show, went all across the country, world famous, made an appearance in Archie comics, it still feels like a family and something that came from a small town. I feel so blessed that I'm connected to so many cast members over the years. Eva Stalen being the very first leading lady of the Frantic Follies here tonight. I got to meet Marie Gogo a few years in Toronto. Of course, Jillian Campbell, who's one of my big inspirations. And Claire Ness, who loaned me this boa. The leading lady is not complete without her boa. So this is a boa that Claire loaned me, but originally came from Jillian. So I feel this is the line that runs through the history of the Frantic Follies. We have been a part of this huge family, and I'm so honored to be a part of it. So Annie and I are going to do a song for you now that Nicole asked me to learn. This is not one that I knew. It's from the Frantic Follies, probably back in the 90s, I imagine. And I asked her why she chose this song. Was it a favorite of Lyall's? Is it one that she really remembers? But no, actually, the reason she picked it was because right after Lyall passed, she really wanted to reconnect with him and watch the old videos of the show. And all she could find were the VHS tapes. She had to buy a $400 VCR off Amazon in order to be able to watch the tapes. And it took 4 VHS tapes before she found a tape that had Lyall on it. So the first song that came up in that 4th tape where Lyall was present was this song called An Old Sweet Home, just an old sweet song. So in spite of Lyall's atheism, I don't know how you feel about it, my dad passed away this year, and I keep feeling like there are small signs from him that I keep getting. So I feel when I learned the message of this song, this is Lyall poking his head out from beyond, maybe in a phone call, some other way, saying this is the song to sing today. So this is just an old sweet song. Back in the old dead days beyond recall, when the mist on the world began to fall, out of the dream that rose in happy thrall, low to our hearts love sang an old sweet song. So in the dusk where it fell the firelight gleam, slowly it wove itself into a dream. Just a song at twilight when the lights are low and the flickering shadows softly come and go. Though our heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's old song, comes love's old sweet song. Even today we hear love's song of yore. Deep in our hearts it dwells forevermore. Footsteps may falter, weary grow the way, still we will hear it at the break of day. So to the end, when life's dim shadows fall, love will be found the sweetest song of all. Just a song at twilight when the lights are low and the flickering shadows softly come and go. Though our heart be weary, sad the day and long, still to us at twilight comes love's old song, comes love's old sweet song. Well, you know, they say it's not a funeral until there are musical saws. The night was mighty dark, so you could hardly see, for the moon refused to shine. Couple sitting underneath the willow tree, for love they pined. The little maid was kind of afraid of darkness, so she said, I guess I'll go. Boy looked up the sky, looked up to the sky, told the moon his little tale of woe. Shine on, heart.
Any, they still know it. All right, sing along.
So shine on, harvest moon, up in the sky. I ain't had no lovin' since January, February, June or July. Snow time ain't no time to stay outdoors and spoon. So shine on, harvest moon, for me and my gal.
Oh, you're wonderful. Give me all the hands. And Annie is on piano.
Okay, we just thought we'd do time if anyone wants to tell a story or a joke or anything. Make way for fun, please. And on behalf of my dad, I would just like to say, keep it snappy and enunciate. It's gonna be embarrassing if no one tells a story. I need someone to go first.
Unfortunately, it's not snappy. Lyall was an acquaintance. I cannot say I knew him very well, but I always enjoyed his company. After running into Lyall, there was always a pleasant exchange of light sarcasm and a whimsical catalog of the absurdities and futilities of the world in general, and the Yukon Territory specifically. If we had any time left over, we would share our observations on the flaws of everyone else, save ourselves, naturally. This was done with a loving, non-judgmental humility, of course. It was fun. I got to know Lyall Murdoch incrementally. Greg, his son, shared Grace Ann, my daughter's enthusiasm for table tennis. As their cohort passed from childhood into adolescence, I would see and meet Lyall from time to time at the table tennis competitions and venues. Lyall's witticisms, his cynicism, and his propensity for jokes whose punchline you could see coming kilometers away was fun, always fun. As if to signal that punchline is coming, that the story did have a point, Lyall's right arm, just like over there, would always come up with his index finger extended. You got a verbal cue, like a physical subtitle with every joke and every story. Lyall was not boring, and my brief exchanges with him anyway. Now the curtain has come down on the colorful 5% life of Lyall Murdoch. At the same time, however, the curtain in the hereafter is rising for Lyall Murdoch, and there will be shenanigans and a cast of colorful characters there as well. Imagine what kind of vaudeville review Lyall is involved in heaven. I imagine a celestial production of Irish playwright Samuel Beckett's 1952 play, Waiting for Godot. But this time it is Waiting for Godot at the White Horse Greyhound station at 3 a.m. during Sourdough Rendezvous, and it's the musical. As a Lyall Murdoch production, I am assuming that the hereafter is a place of patience. When the Frantic Follies shut down after a 47-year run, Lyall was quoted in a newspaper that such a run was impressive. That the show had lasted so long was the point, not that it was finally over. The end of the Frantic Follies was a cautionary tale for the White Horse Star, the newspaper reporting the demise of the Frantic Follies. Ironically, the Star would later close after 124 years. Now we mourn the passing of Lyall Murdoch after 76 years. A passage in the King James Bible speaks beautifully to the inevitability of change, closure, and death. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to weep and a time to laugh. And Lyall Murdoch made us laugh. Lyall made something creative out of nothing, out of thin air, out of his imagination. 47 years of refinement and polishing made the Frantic Follies into something unique to the Yukon Territory. It became Yukonesque. It was an existential experience. The Frantic Follies will exist as long as at least one of the thousands of audience members who saw it. And remember that vaudeville review is alive. No one will ever know exactly how this vaudevillian review influenced the creativity of the individuals who saw it or performed in it. The Frantic Follies did not give offense. Children were in the audience to laugh and sing along with the actors and musicians and their parents. Elaine, my wife, is a teacher. One of her grade 1 students, Grant Simpson's daughter, invited her and I to our inaugural Frantic Follies. We had a great time. And that little girl was so proud to have her teacher, and that guy that came with her teacher, see her dad perform on stage. What a lovely evening. I shall always remember it. The Yukon Order of Yukon was merited. Lyall Murdoch and his family deserve that award. I am glad that Lyall lived long enough to receive the honor for his consistency and creativity in creating the Frantic Follies and seeing it through 47 years of production. Lyall's Follies was inclusive long before the word had the currency, the gravitas it has today. Everyone was welcome to the Frantic Follies, and everyone had a good time. I went to artificial intelligence to find the biblical exhortation to provide a legacy to one's kin is found in Proverbs, which states, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. This passage is about a legacy, a positive inheritance. Money is there, but the true wealth is in the spiritual values, wisdom, and skills that get passed into successive generations. That is the legacy and the inspiration of art. Art can inspire morality, character, strong work ethic, and a deep faith. Lyall left such an artistic sensibility as his legacy to inspire the lives of Nicole, his daughter, and Greg, his son, as did their mother. At the end of the day, technical billionaires and mere millionaires use their wealth to buy art, cars and boats, or planes, trains, and automobiles designed and styled by artists. They will listen to musicians, go to plays, and attend a Broadway show or vaudeville review. An artistic sensibility can inspire and infuse life with meaning, purpose, and direction. Art, like religion, is the curry, the turmeric, the salt and pepper, or the spice that gives life flavor. Money is a boring legacy, necessary but not noteworthy. It is intuitive. It's normal to want to leave your kids with some money, and thus a hand up to a better lifestyle than you started with. What is rarer is leaving your children, your heirs, with a legacy of enthusiasm for the arts, for creativity, for the confidence to be on stage. That is the noteworthy and rare legacy that Lyall Murdoch passed on to his children, Nicole and Greg. Confidence and creativity. Vaudeville entertainment was the Murdoch family business. How many people can say that they grew up in the theater? Really, actually grew up in the theater. I remember seeing Nicole as a can-can dancer in a poster for the Frantic Follies. I understand that her mother in her younger days was also a can-can dancer in the review. Greg had a walk-on speaking part in the Frantic Follies production that I saw with my wife. Today, Greg Murdoch has the chutzpah, the cojones, to play the lead in professionally produced plays. Greg also has the confidence to sell batteries and automotive stuff to the general public at Canadian Tire. I vaguely remember seeing a picture in the newspaper of Greg in his teenage years. Greg was on a unicycle juggling cantaloupes or grapefruits or tomatoes. I cannot remember exactly what he was juggling. Something round anyway. Riding a unicycle takes balance. To ride a unicycle and entertain other people takes confidence and courage. It takes confidence and courage to get on that unicycle, juggling fruit because some people in the audience want to see you fall off that bike. It is like how some people go to a NASCAR race hoping to see a spectacular crash. And you have to multitask on a unicycle. You try it as an adult. It is difficult. Talk and or sing while juggling and balancing on a unicycle. Concentration is especially important so as not to physically fall off that bike and from that small bit of stage that has been choreographed to you, but for a moment. To inspire your teenager to climb onto a unicycle or dance the can-can in front of a crowd of strangers is worthy of a Nobel Prize for parenting. We all remember or choose to forget how self-conscious we were as adolescents. We were uber self-conscious. Just admit it. You would feel better about that time. Lyall Murdoch leaves a legacy of 47 years where he provided for his family and a myriad of revolving actors, singers, and musicians. Lyall gave them the dignity of summer employment. Lyall Murdoch also gave them creative employment. And Lyall Murdoch gave them these same actors and musicians an imaginative way to earn the requisite number of weeks to qualify for Bogey. Bogey is what we boomers used to call unemployment insurance. Now we get a government pension check, the address of a food bank, and a dumpster to live in. As well, Lyall simultaneously staged 2 Frantic Folly productions at the same time, one in Dawson City and the other in Whitehorse for a number of years. Let that sink in. Here you have a man living with the stress of having so many people count on you for your livelihood for 47 consecutive years. 47 consecutive years. It must have been exhausting to be Lyall Murdoch. It must have been exhausting living with Lyall Murdoch. Living with that kind of stress kind of explains the jokes, puns, and witticisms. Like a bear coming out of hibernation, Lyall Murdoch was by necessity a whirling dervish of activity each summer for 47 consecutive years. 47 consecutive years. I cannot get over that kind of consistency. It's remarkable. Lyall's family is to be commended as well. For that kind of professional consistency, it takes a village, a Yukon territory, and an accommodating family to raise and support a vaudevillian production, and Lyall Murdoch, the impresario behind it. Lyall had about him a quintessential Canadian sense of humor and a Canadian presence. Lyall, by humor and disposition, would be the prototype Canadian my parents would reverence to me when they immigrated to Canada in the 50s. Lyall was that English Canadian guy you wanted to fit in with and enjoy talking to. Kudos to the author of Lyall's obituary. It captured his unique personality and his unique sensibility. It captured the Monty Python-esque quality that was Lyall Murdoch. To put it another way, that obituary gave free rein to Lyall's inner Monty Python. That this celebration of life for Lyall is held here in the old fire hall is an inspired choice. The old fire hall is a venue with a vaudevillian aura about it. Today you would say it has a vaudevillian vibe, especially when you're inside the building. Rest in peace is what you would normally end with, but Lyall Murdoch seems too irrepressible to sit around being at peace and resting for all eternity. Lyall Murdoch didn't seem to be a rest in peace kind of guy. Lyall seemed more like the CBC. It's almost finished. Television character Red Green. Actually more like his older brother, minus that much duct tape. The Lyall Murdoch I picture in the hereafter is still very Canadian in his restless putterings with his humor and worldview intact. The guy with Lyall's resume of husband, father, brother, stage performer, writer, director, actor, singer, musician, stage manager, business manager, and janitor probably could use a little duct tape, if only to silence the criticism that comes with doing anything creative. Like Red Green, Lyall had to do what he had to do with what he had running the Follies. As just noted in his obituary, Lyall was everything to everyone during his tenure as a musical impresario. So the duct tape probably came in handy. So with duct tape or that Canadian stoicism, you have the wherewithal to patch up what's needed patching up so that the show could go on and on and on. When a life ends and cannot go any further, Christianity can be a source of comfort and solace. I'm ignorant of Lyall Murdoch's view on religion, which I just heard about. What would a vaudevillian believe in, I thought to myself. We never got to that topic during our conversational meanderings. We ran out of time. Nevertheless, biblical Christianity is literature as well as theology, which in my opinion is still beautiful and profound. I think Lyall is entitled to some beauty and profundity as we take our leave of him on this plane of existence. From my experience, a noteworthy passage of the Bible can calm a person who is grieving and seeks solace. Hence the words of Psalm 23 bear repeating. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thou rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of my enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. After listening to the eulogy, after listening to the eulogy at some funerals, you wonder, who the hell did they talk about? The deceased was never that good. Am I at the right funeral? Did I get the time and date wrong? Who is this saint they're talking about? I'm not trying to canonize Lyall Murdoch as a saint here. Most people, perhaps all people, save their flaws for the immediate family. What I saw and experienced in Lyall Murdoch was positive and uplifting. But we'll end there.
Anybody else want to? That was great, thank you.
Nobody else wants to say a quick word?
It'll be done. Put that back. We're gonna finish off with the slide show, but please feel free to stay and mingle, and please eat the food. If I have to take the food home, that would be worse than my dad dying.
Last time we were at a service thing, we had some leftover sandwiches and we had to eat them for like a week. So please eat the stuff.
Eat the food, please. I just want to say again to everybody, thank you so much for being there for my dad, not just today, but throughout his life. I know you all meant a lot to him. Actually, no. Well, a lot. Some of you meant a lot to him. You know who you are. But thank you for laughing at his jokes for all the years. Thank you for laughing at the same jokes over and over and over and over and over again for years. And thanks for being here today. We're just going to finish off with the slideshow, and then please feel free to mingle.
Well done.
A child of 10 was playing on the schoolyard's painted swing when a stranger came by saying, I have come to tell you something. I am the friend of your father, who died before you were born. Like me, I know you still greet him in the sunshine of the morn. Oh, your daddy, he was a vaudevillian, with a song and a dance and a joke. He brought joy and laughter to all the earthly folk. The angels grew jealous and called him to brighten up their show. Now when the clouds roll away, I look up and say hello. As you grow older, life deals its blows. Just when your heart's sinking down, on the darkest of nights shine the bright northern lights. There he goes playing the clown. Oh, your daddy, he was a vaudevillian, with a song and a dance and a joke. He brought joy and laughter to all the earthly folk. The angels grew jealous and called him to brighten up their show. Now when the clouds roll away, I look up and say hello. So run on home to your mother, should she ask what you learned in your school today. Sing her the song of the stranger and smile at the sky as you say, oh, my daddy, he was a vaudevillian, with a song and a dance and a joke. He brought joy and laughter to all the earthly folk. The angels grew jealous and called him to brighten up their show. Now when the clouds roll away, I look up and say, hello, hello, hello.
Lately there's nothing but trouble, grief and strife. There's not much attraction about this blooming life. Last night I dreamt I was blooming well dead. As I went to the funeral I blooming well said, look at the flowers, blooming great orchids, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. And look at the coffin, blooming great handles, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. I felt so happy to think that I'd popped off. I said to a bloke with a nasty aching cough, look at the placards, blooming great horses, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. Look at the bearers, all in their frock coats, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. And look at their top hats, polished with Guinness, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. Some people there were praying for my soul. I said it's the first time I've been off the dole. Look at the mourners, blooming well soddled, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. Look at the children, blooming excited, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. And look at the neighbours, blooming delighted, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. Spend the insurance on murmured for a lack, you know that I shan't be with you going back. Look at the missus, blooming well laughing, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. Look at my sister, blooming your hat on, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. And look at my brother, blooming cigar on, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead. We come from clay and we all go back, they say, so don't take a brick, it might be your Auntie May. Look at me grandma, blooming old hay bag, ain't it grand to be blooming well dead.
The hours we've had with you are nearly gone now, and it's almost time to send you on your way. Soon we'll be out here to take our last